Welcome, peaceful wanderer, to another gentle journey with the sleeping wanderer. Tonight we're traveling together to the enchanting French Riviera, where the Mediterranean Sea whispers ancient lullabies against sun-warmed shores. The Côte d'Azur, as the locals call it with such tenderness, awaits us with its endless blue horizons and lavender-scented breezes. There's no rush, no agenda, just a peaceful exploration that will carry you gently toward rest. Before we begin our restful adventure together, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy these sleepy travels. And drop a comment below telling me which magical destination you want us to visit next. Now, take a deep breath and let the warm Mediterranean air fill your lungs. You're standing on a quiet terrace overlooking the azure waters that give this coast its name. The French Riviera stretches before you like a painted dream, where every shade of blue imaginable dances between sea and sky. The gentle warmth of the southern French sun touches your skin like a soft blanket, not too hot, just perfectly comfortable. Below you, the coastline curves gracefully, dotted with peaceful villages that seem to tumble down hillsides toward the sea. Each one holds centuries of stories, whispered in the narrow streets and echoed in the gentle lap of waves against ancient harbors. The air carries the faintest hint of jasmine and sea salt, mingling with the distant aroma of fresh bread from a village bakery. This evening, we'll wander slowly through this Mediterranean paradise. We'll explore hidden corners where time moves at the pace of drifting clouds. We'll discover quiet beaches where the only sound is the rhythmic breathing of the sea. We'll climb gentle hills covered in olive groves and pause in medieval villages where cats sleep in patches of golden sunlight. The French Riviera has been welcoming peaceful travelers for centuries. Long before it became known to the world, fishermen cast their nets in these tranquil waters, and farmers tended their lavender fields in the hills above. Tonight, you're joining this timeless tradition of finding peace along these blessed shores. As we begin our journey, know that you can close your eyes whenever you feel ready. Let my voice be simply a gentle companion, guiding you through beautiful places as you drift toward sleep. There's no need to remember every detail, no need to stay awake for any particular moment. Simply let the journey unfold around you like a soft, comfortable dream. The light here has a special quality. Artists have tried for centuries to capture it on canvas. It's a light that seems to slow everything down, turning even ordinary moments into something peaceful and eternal. This golden pink glow now bathes everything in sight, from the terracotta rooftops to the silver-green olive leaves that shimmer gently in the evening breeze. Somewhere in the distance, church bells ring softly, not urgently, just marking the passage of time in the gentlest way. The sound floats across the valleys and over the water, a reminder that life here follows ancient rhythms. The bells fade slowly, leaving only the continuous, soothing sound of the sea. Your journey tonight begins in Nice, the gentle queen of the Riviera. From there, we'll drift eastward along the coast, discovering Monaco's hidden peaceful corners. We'll wander through Ease, perched high above the sea, explore the quiet morning markets of Antibes, and finally find ourselves in the lavender fields above Grasse as the stars begin to appear. But there's no need to think about the entire journey now. Simply be here in this moment, breathing in the peaceful Mediterranean evening, feeling the gentle warmth, hearing the soft sounds of this timeless coast, Everything else will unfold naturally, easily, like waves spreading softly across the sand. You find yourself now on the Promenade des Anglais in Nice, but not during the busy day. This is the quiet hour, when the sky turns the softest shade of lavender pink, and the famous walkway belongs to just a few peaceful evening strollers. The palm trees sway gently overhead, their fronds creating a soft rustling sound that mingles with the rhythmic whisper of waves. The pebble beach stretches beside you, and the sound of the sea rolling these smooth stones is like nature's own meditation. Each wave pulls back with a gentle shh, taking with it any tension you might have carried here. The Mediterranean is calm this evening, its surface like silk, reflecting the pastel colors of the sky. You walk slowly, feeling no need to hurry. The blue chairs that line the promenade are mostly empty now, some still warm from the day's sun. Occasionally, you pass an elderly local couple, walking arm in arm, speaking in soft French, their words floating past like a gentle melody you don't need to understand. To your right, the old town of Nice, the Vieux Nice, glows with warm lamplight. The buildings are painted in those distinctive Riviera colors: soft ochre, dusty pink, pale yellow, colors that seem to have absorbed decades of sunshine and now give it back as a gentle glow. The shutters are painted in faded greens and blues, many partially open, revealing glimpses of peaceful evening life within. You turn into the old town, where the narrow streets create cool shadows even on warm days. Your footsteps echo softly on the ancient stones, worn smooth by centuries of peaceful wanderers like yourself. The buildings lean in overhead, almost touching, creating an intimate tunnel of tranquility. A cat appears from a doorway, stretches luxuriously, and pads silently ahead of you, as if appointed as your gentle guide. It leads you past a small fountain where water trickles continuously, a sound that has remained unchanged for hundreds of years. The fountain is simple, just a carved face from which water flows into a worn basin. But there's something deeply peaceful about its constancy. The scent of dinner being prepared drifts from windows above, simple, comforting aromas: garlic sautéing in olive oil, fresh herbs, the faint sweetness of tomatoes simmering slowly. These are the scents of home, of comfort, of generations preparing the same beloved dishes in the same kitchens. You emerge into the Place Rossetti, where the Baroque cathedral stands peacefully in the fading light. The square is almost empty now, just a few tables outside the gelato shop, where people sit quietly, savoring their evening treat. The cathedral's facade is ornate, but somehow soothing in this light, its curves and decorations softened by shadow. The flower market area is closed now, but the sweet perfume of the day's blooms still lingers in the air. Roses, jasmine, mimosa, their fragrances blend into something uniquely Mediterranean, uniquely peaceful. Tomorrow this space will fill with color and gentle activity, but now it rests, holding only the ghost of flowers. As you continue your slow exploration, you find yourself climbing the gentle steps toward Castle Hill. Don't worry, it's not a strenuous climb, just a gradual ascent with plenty of places to pause and breathe. The city drops away below you, its lights beginning to twinkle like earthbound stars. The sound of the city becomes a distant, soothing hum. At the top, you find a bench perfectly positioned to watch the evening deepen over the Baie des Anges, the Bay of Angels. Such a peaceful name for such a peaceful place. The curve of the coastline is illuminated now by a string of gentle lights. Following the shore toward Antibes in the distance, you sit for a moment, feeling the slight breeze that always blows up here. It carries with it all the scents and sounds of the Riviera, salt and flowers, distant laughter, and nearby crickets beginning their evening song. This is Nice at its most peaceful, when the day's energy has settled into evening tranquility. As you rest on this hillside, let me share with you the gentle history of this blessed coast. The French Riviera story is one of gradual discovery, of people finding peace and beauty here across the centuries. Long before the grand hotels and famous visitors, this was a coast of simple fishing villages and ancient olive groves. The Greeks were here first, over 2,000 years ago. They sailed along this coast in their trading vessels, establishing small ports where Nice now stands. They called it Nicaea, after Nike, the goddess of victory. But it was always a peaceful victory, a victory over rough seas to find this calm harbor. You can still feel their presence in the old stones, in the way the streets follow ancient patterns. The Romans came after, building their villas on these same hillsides where you now sit. They understood, as you do now, that this was a place for rest and contemplation. They built baths here, places to soak in warm water while gazing at the sea. Through the medieval centuries, the little towns along this coast lived quietly. Fishermen mended their nets in the harbors. Farmers pressed olives into golden oil. Monks in hillside monasteries tended gardens and copied manuscripts in peaceful scriptoriums. Life moved with the seasons, with the phases of the moon that governed both the tides and plantings. The old villages you see perched on the hills, as Saint-Paul-de-Vence, Cordon. They were built high for protection, but also for the peace that comes with elevation. Up there, above the coastal mists, life was even quieter. The only sounds were church bells, donkeys on stone paths, and the wind in the olive trees. In the 18th century, something gentle began to change. English visitors, seeking mild winters and healing sea air, discovered this coast. They came not for excitement, but for rest, for recovery, for the particular quality of light that seemed to ease troubled minds. They walked slowly along the shore, breathed deeply, and wrote letters home about the extraordinary peace they found here. The Promenade des Anglais, where you walked earlier, was their gift to Nice. They funded its construction so everyone could enjoy peaceful walks by the sea. It wasn't built for commerce or speed, but purely for the pleasure of gentle strolling, of watching the sea change colors through the day. Queen Victoria herself came here, seeking the same tranquility you're experiencing now. She would sit in her villa's garden, painting watercolors of the view, finding in this simple activity a peace that eluded her in palaces. The royal presence brought others, but always those seeking rest rather than excitement. The Belle Epoque era draped this coast in gentle elegance. Grand hotels rose like white wedding cakes along the shore, but they were temples to relaxation. Their palm courts and terraces were designed for long, peaceful afternoons. Their gardens were planted with jasmine and roses that would perfume the evening air. Artists discovered this coast too, drawn by that special light we mentioned. Renoir spent his last years here, his arthritis eased by the warm climate, painting the olive trees and the sea, even when his hands could barely hold the brush. Matisse found his colors here, those blues and greens that seemed to capture liquid light. He would sit by his window in Nice, painting the same view over and over, finding infinite peace in the repetition. Picasso worked in Antibes, in a castle by the sea, creating some of his most joyful works. The Mediterranean light softened his vision, turned his shapes gentle and flowing. You can feel that same softening effect now, as the evening light makes everything appear to breathe more slowly. The small museums here don't shout their treasures, they whisper them. Little collections in converted villas where you can wander quietly. The only sound your footsteps on marble floors. Each painting, each sculpture, seems to have absorbed the peaceful atmosphere of the coast. Through 2 world wars, this coast remained a haven. Even in difficult times, people found moments of peace here. The sea continued its eternal rhythm. The lavender bloomed in the hills. The olive trees grew another ring, marking time in their patient way. And now, in our modern era, the French Riviera continues its ancient mission. Yes, there are festivals and events, but underneath, the old peace remains. In the early morning, fishermen still mend nets. In the evening, families still gather for long, quiet dinners. The rhythm of life here resists acceleration. This history isn't one of great battles or dramatic changes. It's a history of continuity, of gentle evolution, of people discovering and rediscovering the same simple truths about peace and beauty. You're part of this history now, another peaceful soul drawn to these blessed shores. As night settles more deeply over Nice, let's continue our journey eastward along the coast. The architecture here tells stories in stone and stucco, each building a gentle dream made permanent. The road winds softly, following the curves of the coastline, and every turn reveals another peaceful vista. You're approaching Villefranche-sur-Mer now, one of the most naturally sheltered bays on the entire Mediterranean. The town tumbles down the hillside in terraces, each level connected by gentle stone steps, worn smooth by centuries of footfalls. The houses are painted in those warm colors again: apricot, rose, amber, colors that seem to glow from within even in moonlight. The architecture here isn't grand or imposing. It's human-scaled, comfortable, welcoming. Doorways are just tall enough, windows just wide enough, balconies just the right size for a chair, and a small table where someone might sit with their morning coffee, watching the fishing boats return. The Church of Saint-Michel appears, its baroque facade a gentle symphony of curves and shadows in the evening light. Inside, if you were to enter, you'd find coolness and quiet, the faint scent of incense and old wood, surfaces polished by countless peaceful hands seeking comfort. Along the waterfront, the ancient arcades create a covered walkway. These vaulted passages have sheltered people from sun and rain for hundreds of years. The ceiling is low and curved, creating an intimate feeling, like walking through a gentle embrace. Restaurants and cafes nestle in these arches, their lights reflecting on the water in soft, dancing patterns. The natural harbor here is almost perfectly circular, protected by embracing arms of land. The water is so still it mirrors the lights perfectly, creating a double world, one above, one below, both equally peaceful. Small boats bob gently at their moorings, their masts creating a forest of gently swaying lines against the sky. Continuing along the coast, you come to Cap Ferrat, a peninsula of extraordinary natural beauty. The architecture here speaks of a different kind of dream. Villas hidden behind gardens, where every plant seems chosen for its contribution to tranquility. Umbrella pines create pools of soft shadow. Cypress trees stand like gentle guardians. Bougainvillea drapes purple and pink over white walls. The Villa Efrussi de Rothschild sleeps peacefully in its gardens. 9 different gardens, actually, each one a different meditation on beauty. The French garden, with its musical fountains that play soft melodies of water. The Japanese garden, where a wooden bridge arcs over a pond, where koi swim in slow hypnotic patterns. The rose garden, where hundreds of varieties release their perfume into the night air. These gardens aren't just planted, they're composed, like music made visible. Every view is carefully framed. Every path curves just so, leading the wanderer gently from one peaceful scene to another. Even in darkness, you can sense their harmony, smell their layered fragrances, hear the soft sounds of water and wind in leaves. The coastal path here, the Sentier du Littoral, hugs the rocky shore. The rocks have been sculpted by millennia of gentle waves into smooth, organic forms. Some look like sleeping figures, others like abstract sculptures placed by nature's patient hand. The path winds between them, sometimes so close to the water you can trail your fingers in the sea. Small beaches appear in coves, perfect crescents of sand or smooth pebbles. Each one feels like a secret, a private paradise discovered just by you. The water in these coves is impossibly clear. Even at night you can sense its purity, its invitation to float weightlessly. The native plants here have adapted to this blessed climate. Wild rosemary grows from rocky cracks, releasing its sharp, clean scent when brushed. Lavender finds pockets of soil and fills them with purple-gray abundance. Ancient olive trees twist into sculptural forms, their leaves silver in the moonlight. The old town of Monaco, the Rock, is a different world from the glamour below. Here, narrow streets wind between ancient buildings. Small squares open unexpectedly, with a fountain or a bench positioned just right for contemplation. The cathedral where Princess Grace rests is simple, peaceful. Its interior a cool refuge of cream-colored stone. The exotic garden of Monaco clings to the cliffsides, its cacti and succulents creating a moonscape of strange, peaceful forms. These plants have such patience, growing slowly, storing water, blooming rarely but spectacularly. There's something deeply calming about their unhurried existence. From the garden's heights, you can see the entire coast spreading in both directions. The lights of the Riviera towns string along the shore like a necklace of soft pearls. Each light represents a life, a home, a place where someone is perhaps like you, finding peace in this gentle evening. The culture of the French Riviera moves at its own peaceful pace. It's a culture of long lunches and longer dinners, of afternoon siestas and evening promenades. As you continue your journey through Monaco and beyond, you begin to feel the rhythm of local life settling into your bones. In the early morning markets, which you can imagine now even in this evening hour, vendors arrange their products with the care of artists. Tomatoes are stacked in perfect pyramids. Herbs are bundled with raffia. Olives glisten in wooden bowls, sorted by size and color. This isn't hurried commerce. It's a ritual of presentation, of taking pride in simple things. The market conversations are gentle theatricals. The vendor asks after your health, your family. You discuss the weather, the quality of this year's melons, the best way to prepare the fish that was swimming this morning. No one rushes these exchanges. They're as important as the transactions themselves. The cafe culture here is a meditation practice, disguised as social custom. People sit for hours with a single coffee, watching the world pass at its unhurried pace. They're not waiting for anything. The sitting itself is the purpose. The watching, the gentle conversation or comfortable silence, the slow sipping. This is the art of being present. You notice how meals are treated here, not as fuel to be consumed quickly, but as ceremonies of pleasure and connection. Even a simple lunch extends over multiple courses. A bit of tapenade with bread, a salad of perfect tomatoes, some grilled fish with herbs, fresh fruit. Each course has its moment, its appreciation. The tradition of the aperitif continues here religiously. As the sun begins to lower, people gather on terraces and in gardens for a glass of rosé or a pastis mixed with cold water that turns it cloudy like a liquid sunset. This isn't about the alcohol. It's about the pause, the transition from day to evening, the gentle social ritual. Local festivals happen throughout the year, but they're not loud or chaotic. The Lemon Festival in Menton creates fantastic sculptures from citrus fruits, but people view them quietly, admiringly. The Jasmine Festival in Grasse celebrates the flower harvest with the gentle parades and the crowning of a jasmine queen. These aren't rowdy celebrations, but communal appreciations of beauty. The tradition of the siesta still holds in many places. Shops close from noon to 3, streets empty. The whole coast seems to exhale and rest. This isn't laziness, it's wisdom, an understanding that constant activity isn't natural or healthy. Even the busiest places honor this pause. In the evening, the passeggiata begins. Families dress in their good clothes, not formally but nicely, and walk slowly through the towns. Children run ahead, but not too far. Elderly couples move at their own pace. Everyone greets everyone. This evening walk isn't exercise. It's community, connection, a gentle celebration of another day completed. The fishing tradition continues in small ports all along the coast. Fishermen still leave before dawn, returning with their catch as the morning warms. They sell directly from their boats, the fish still glistening with seawater. This connection between sea and table has remained unbroken for millennia. The tradition of artisanal crafts persists in the hill villages. In Bayot, glassblowers still shape molten glass with their breath, creating bubbled glass that captures light like frozen sea foam. In Valaris, potters work clay on wheels that turn at the pace of a meditation. These crafts can't be rushed. They require patience, presence, peaceful concentration. The perfume makers of Grasse maintain traditions that go back centuries. They still harvest jasmine in the cool morning when the scent is strongest. They still use the ancient enfleurage technique, pressing flowers into fat to capture their essence. This is slow work, patient work, the kind that can't be mechanized without losing its soul. Music here tends toward the gentle. Street musicians play accordion melodies that float through the evening air. In churches, organs play Bach fugues that seem to make the stones themselves vibrate peacefully. Even the modern music festivals feature more jazz than rock, more melody than rhythm. The wine culture is contemplative. Local rosés are sipped slowly, their pale pink color admired in the glass, their subtle flavors discussed and appreciated. Wine isn't consumed. It's experienced, preferably on a terrace with a view, preferably with friends, preferably as the sun sets. The language itself, The local French, with its Provençal influences, is spoken more softly here than in Paris. Words are drawn out, savored. Conversations meander like the coastal roads. There's no rush to make a point. The journey of the conversation is as important as any destination. Even commerce moves differently here. Shopkeepers don't pressure. They suggest, they advise. They're happy to let you browse in peace. Many shops still close for 2 hours at lunch. The owners would rather eat properly than make an extra sale. The relationship with time is different. Clocks exist, but they don't dominate. Appointments are suggestions. Around 6 means sometime between 6 and 7. This isn't rudeness. It's an understanding that life shouldn't be enslaved to mechanical precision. As you continue eastward along the coast toward ease, notice how the quality of darkness itself is different here. This isn't the heavy darkness of northern nights. It's a soft, blue-tinted darkness, as if the Mediterranean sky never quite forgets the color of day. Stars appear one by one, like gentle thoughts emerging from a calm mind. The Riviera transforms through the seasons, but gently, subtly. Spring arrives with mimosa blooms, their yellow pom-poms releasing a powdery sweet fragrance. The hills turn golden with these flowers, and their scent drifts down to the coast on warm breezes. Wisteria follows, draping purple cascades over pergolas and walls. Then the roses begin, and they never really stop. Summer here isn't harsh. The sea breeze moderates everything. Mornings are fresh, almost cool, perfect for walking before the day warms. By noon, the heat encourages stillness, rest, the seeking of shade. Evenings are long and golden, the sun taking its time to set, painting the sky in gradations of pink and gold that seem to last forever. Autumn might be the most peaceful season. The tourists gradually depart, leaving the coast to its residents and to travelers like you who seek tranquility. The light becomes even more golden, if that's possible. The sea, still warm from summer, contrasts with the cooling air, creating morning mists that make everything appear to float. Winter is mild, gentle. Some days are so warm you can sit outside in January. Rain comes, but usually at night, washing everything clean for sparkling mornings. The mountains behind the coast sometimes wear caps of snow, but down here, oranges and lemons ripen on the trees. Each hour of the day has its own character here. Dawn comes softly, the sky lightening gradually from black to deep blue to pale pink. The first light touches the hilltop villages before descending slowly to the sea. Birds begin their morning songs one species at a time, building to a gentle chorus. Mid-morning has a special quality. The light is clear but not harsh, perfect for seeing colors truly. This is when the Mediterranean blue appears most intense, when the terracotta roofs glow warmest, when the flowers seem most vivid. Yet nothing is overwhelming. Everything is in perfect balance. Noon brings a peculiar peace. Shadows disappear. Everything is illuminated evenly. The world seems to pause, to hold its breath. Even the waves seem to lap more quietly at the shore. This is the traditional hour of rest, and you can feel why. The universe itself seems to be taking a break. Afternoon light begins to slant, creating long shadows that stretch and yawn across squares and beaches. Everything becomes more three-dimensional, more sculptural. Buildings that looked flat in noon light reveal their textures, their age, their character. This is the artist's hour, when painters set up their easels. The golden hour before sunset is almost too beautiful to describe. Everything turns to honey and amber. The sea becomes a sheet of hammered gold. White buildings blush pink. Even ordinary objects, a wooden boat, a stone wall, a simple chair, become transformed into things of extraordinary beauty. Twilight lasts longer here than seems possible. The sun sets, but the light lingers, reluctant to leave. The sky goes through every shade of blue, from palest powder to deepest indigo. Venus appears first, bright and steady, followed by the other planets and stars in their eternal procession. Night brings its own palette. The moon rises over the sea, laying down a silver path that seems to lead to dreams. Building lights create warm yellow punctuation marks against the blue-black sky. Navigation lights on boats trace slow paths across the water. Everything moves more slowly at night, more peacefully. You're climbing now toward Ease, the famous perched village that sits like an eagle's nest above the sea. The road winds in gentle switchbacks, each turn revealing a new perspective on the coast below. The lights of the Riviera spread out like a constellation that has fallen to earth and arranged itself along the shore. As at night is a medieval dream. The narrow streets are lit by iron lanterns that cast soft, dancing shadows. Your footsteps echo softly off the ancient stones. Cats appear and disappear like gentle spirits. Door after door reveals glimpses of hidden gardens where the night-blooming jasmine perfumes the air. At the exotic garden at the top of Ez, you can see the entire coast in both directions. The view is so vast, so peaceful, it seems to expand your very breathing. The cacti and succulents in the garden stand like the patient sentinels, their strange shapes even more mysterious in moonlight. Time seems different up here. The village has stood for over 1,000 years, and you can feel that continuity. The same views have been admired by countless eyes. The same paths have been walked by countless feet. Yet each person's experience is unique, including yours. Right now, in this gentle moment, the church bell tolls the hour, but softly, as if not wanting to disturb anyone's dreams. The sound floats out over the valley, gradually fading until it's indistinguishable from the whisper of wind in the pines. Descending from Ez, let's explore the hidden places that most visitors never find. Between the famous sites are countless quiet corners where the true spirit of the Riviera reveals itself. These are the places where locals go to find peace, where cats sleep in the sun, where time seems to pool and eddy like water in a quiet cove. In Beaulieu-sur-Mer, there's a small garden called La Petite Afrique. The name comes from its microclimate, so mild that tropical plants thrive here. Palm trees from distant continents spread their fronds. Exotic flowers bloom in impossible colors. Yet despite its tropical nature, the garden is incredibly peaceful, with winding paths that lead to hidden benches where you can sit and feel completely alone with beauty. The coastal path between Beaulieu and Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat is known to locals but overlooked by many. It winds along the water's edge, sometimes through tunnels carved in the rock, sometimes across tiny beaches, where the waves whisper secrets to the stones. There are places where you can sit on smooth rocks, your feet almost touching the water, and watch the sea change colors for hours. In the back streets of Antibes, away from the famous ramparts, small squares appear unexpectedly. Each one has its own character. One might have a single plane tree providing shade, its bark peeling in patches like an abstract painting. Another might have a small fountain, just a pipe in a wall. but the water that flows from it has been flowing for centuries. The Jardin Thuré in Cap d'Antibes is a botanical garden that few people know about. Scientists planted it in the 1850s to test which exotic plants could adapt to the Mediterranean climate. Now, it's a peaceful jungle of eucalyptus and palm, with paths that wind through green shadows and suddenly open onto sunny clearings where butterflies dance. Between Nice and Monaco, there are small valleys that cut back into the hills. Each one holds a village that seems forgotten by time. Payon, Payle, Sainte-Agnès. Their names are like gentle sighs. In these villages you can walk for an hour and meet no one except a cat or an elderly person tending their garden. The gardens here deserve special mention. Behind high walls throughout the Riviera are private paradises that can only be glimpsed through gates or over walls. But what glimpses they are! Cascading bougainvillea in purple and magenta, lemon trees heavy with fruit, pergolas wrapped in jasmine. These gardens are rooms without ceilings, where people live as much as in their houses. In Menton, the most Italian of the French Riviera towns, there are gardens within gardens. The Val Rame Botanical Garden contains smaller themed gardens, a water garden where lotus flowers float on still ponds, a spice garden where you can smell cinnamon and cardamom on the breeze. Each garden is a different meditation, a different way of finding peace. The old cemetery in Menton, where foreigners who came here for their health are buried, is paradoxically one of the most peaceful places on the coast. The graves look out over the sea, and many have touching inscriptions about finding peace at last in this blessed place. Cypress trees stand guard, and the only sounds are birds and the distant sea. In the hills above Grasse, lavender fields stretch in purple rows that follow the contours of the land. Between the commercial fields are small, forgotten plots where wild lavender grows untended. Here you can sit surrounded by purple haze, breathing air so perfumed it seems almost visible, watching bees move slowly from flower to flower in their ancient work. The Gorge du Loup, a river canyon that cuts through the hills behind the coast, has pools of green water so clear you can see every pebble on the bottom. The water is cold, even in summer, fed by mountain springs. Along the gorge are places where you can sit on smooth rocks, your feet in the water, feeling the contrast between the warm sun on your face and the cool water on your skin. Small chapels dot the hillsides, many of them open, unattended, available to anyone seeking a moment of quiet. The Chapel of the Rosary in Vence, designed by Matisse, is famous, but there are dozens of others, simple and unadorned, where the only decoration is the light falling through old glass. In the Mercantour National Park, just an hour from the coast but feeling like another world, alpine meadows bloom with wildflowers in summer. The contrast is extraordinary. You can swim in the Mediterranean in the morning and walk through mountain meadows in the afternoon, breathing air scented with wild thyme and pine. The islands off the coast, the Ile de l'Iran near Cannes, are repositories of deep quiet. On Ile Saint-Honorable, monks have lived in silence for 16 centuries. Their monastery is still active, and the island maintains an atmosphere of profound peace. Pine forests lead to rocky shores, where the only sound is waves and wind. Even in the busiest towns, there are hidden corners. In Nice, the Russian Orthodox Cathedral sits in its own bubble of tranquility. In Monaco, the Japanese garden is a perfect miniature landscape where every view is composed for contemplation. In Cannes, the old port is a working harbor where fishermen still mend nets in the ancient way. These hidden places aren't really hidden. They're just overlooked, passed by in the rush to see the famous sights. But they're where the true spirit of the Riviera lives, in the quiet corners, the secret gardens, the forgotten paths where you can walk slowly, breathe deeply, and feel the peace that has drawn people here for millennia. Every stone along this coast holds stories, but they're gentle stories, tales of love and beauty rather than conflict. As you continue your journey through the quiet night, let me share some of the legends that have been whispered here for generations. Stories as soft and comforting as the Mediterranean breeze. There's the legend of how the Baie des Anges got its name. They say that Adam and Eve, after being expelled from paradise, wandered the earth looking for a place that reminded them of Eden. When they found this bay, with its perfect curve and azure waters, angels came down to comfort them, their wings brushing the water and leaving it forever blessed with celestial peace. In Aze, they tell the story of the philosopher Nietzsche, who walked the steep path from the sea to the village every day, while writing, "Thus spoke Zarathustra." But the locals remember him differently than history does. They remember a quiet man who would pause to pet cats, who would sit for hours watching the sea, finding in this simple contemplation a peace that eluded him elsewhere. The fishermen of Villefranche have their own legends. They speak of the Virgin of the Deep, a statue that was lost in a storm centuries ago, but still protects those who sail these waters. On very calm nights, they say, you can see a gentle light deep beneath the surface, the Virgin's lamp still burning, still watching over the peaceful sailors. In the perfume capital of Grasse, there's the story of the monk who discovered how to capture the scent of jasmine. He was trying to preserve the flower's beauty for winter prayers when he noticed that oil absorbed the fragrance. His discovery was really about preserving peace, about carrying the calm of summer gardens through the cold months. The Villa Efrussi tells its own story. The Baroness who built it wanted to live on a ship that would never sail, always at peace in its garden harbor. She filled it with treasures not to impress, but to create beauty, to make every room a peaceful dream. Even now, walking through the villa feels like moving through someone's gentle fantasy of perfect tranquility. Princess Grace of Monaco left her own legend, not of glamour, but of kindness. Locals tell stories of her walking in the palace gardens in the early morning, greeting gardeners by name, knowing their children's birthdays. She found in Monaco not a throne, but a home, a place where she could finally be at peace. The artists who lived here each left their stories woven into the landscape. Renoir, crippled with arthritis, had brushes strapped to his hands so he could continue painting the olive trees he loved. "I paint with my happiness," he said, and you can feel that joy, that peace, in every silvery leaf he captured. Cocteau decorated the wedding chapel in Villefranche with murals of local fishermen as apostles. He wanted to show that the sacred was here, now, in the simple lives of people who lived by the sea. The fishermen would bring him coffee while he worked, and he would tell them stories, creating a legend within a legend. There's the tale of the English lord who built the first hotel in Nice. He didn't want to create a business, but a place where people like him, seeking health and peace, could find both. He insisted on gardens because he believed that beauty was medicine, that looking at flowers could heal the spirit as surely as sea air could heal the lungs. The market vendors have their stories too. The tomato seller whose grandmother taught her that each tomato should be placed with care, because someone would take it home and it would become part of their evening, their peace. The flower seller who gets up at 3 in the morning, not because he has to, but because he loves the quiet drive to the flower market, the world all to himself. In the hill villages, they tell stories of the old days when life moved even slower, when the postal carrier knew everyone's business but kept everyone's secrets, when the baker would leave bread on doorsteps for those who couldn't afford it, never asking for payment, understanding that village peace depended on everyone being fed. The story of the Riviera's light itself is a legend. They say that when God was painting the world, he paused here, mixing his colors more carefully, adding an extra layer of gold to the light, a special blue to the sea. He wanted one place where artists would always find inspiration, where anyone could come and remember what beauty means. Even the cats of the Riviera have their legends. They're said to be descendants of Egyptian cats brought by Phoenician traders. They carry ancient wisdom in their eyes, know all the secret paths, all the sunny spots, all the places where peace pools like warm honey. The olive trees, some over 1,000 years old, are living legends. Each one has weathered storms, droughts, even fires, yet continues to produce fruit, continues to offer shade. They're symbols of endurance, of peace that persists through all troubles. There's a modern legend, too, of the man who walks the Promenade des Anglais every single morning, rain or shine, who has done so for 40 years. He doesn't walk for exercise, but for the ritual, for the peace of repetition, for the way the sea is always the same and always different. These stories aren't dramatic. They don't have battles or conquests. They're gentle tales of people finding peace, creating beauty, living slowly and well. They're the stories that the Riviera tells about itself, whispered in the wind, written in the worn stones, reflected in the endless blue of the sea. As the night deepens, our journey takes us inland, up into the hills above Grasse, where lavender fields dream under the stars. The road winds gently upward, each curve revealing new vistas of the coast below, its lights now looking like a distant galaxy, beautiful but remote. As we enter a different realm of peace, the air changes as we climb. It becomes cooler, cleaner, scented with pine and wild herbs. The famous lavender fields of Provence begin here, on these slopes that face the sea, catching both the maritime moisture and the mountain clarity. Even in darkness, you can smell the lavender, a scent so calming it seems to slow your very heartbeat. The fields are arranged in perfect rows that follow the contours of the hills, creating patterns like purple corduroy laid over the landscape. Between the cultivated fields are patches of wild lavender, growing wherever it pleases, reminding us that this peace existed here long before humans arrived to cultivate it. Walking between the rows of lavender is like walking through a purple dream. The plants brush against you, releasing their scent, leaving their calming essence on your clothes, your skin. Bees sleep in the flowers, waiting for dawn to resume their patient work. Sometimes a moth flutters past, white in the darkness, like a small ghost of summer. The farmhouses up here are built of stone, with thick walls that keep them cool in summer, warm in winter. Their shutters are painted in faded blues and greens, colors that echo the lavender and the distant sea. Gardens surround them, practical gardens with vegetables and herbs, but also roses, always roses, climbing walls and arching over doorways. This is where the perfumers of Grasse source their lavender. The harvest happens in July and August, but the fields are beautiful year-round. In spring, they're green with new growth. In autumn, they're silver gray, preparing for winter's rest. Even now, in the quiet night, they're beautiful in their sleeping stillness. The village of Gordon perches on a cliff edge, its houses seeming to grow from the rock itself. From here, you can see the entire coast spread below, from Italy to the Estoril. But the view isn't dramatic. It's peaceful, so vast that it empties the mind of everything except wonder. Small chapels dot these hills, simple stone buildings with wooden doors that are never locked. Inside, candles flicker in red glass holders, their light creating moving shadows on whitewashed walls. These aren't grand churches but humble places where shepherds and farmers have found peace for centuries. The stars are clearer up here, away from the coastal lights. The Milky Way spreads across the sky like spilled lavender flowers. Constellations that are hard to see at sea level reveal themselves fully. Orion strides across the southern sky. The Pleiades cluster like a handful of diamonds. Venus shines steady and bright. Wildlife moves through these hills at night. Wild boar root in the forest edges. They're snuffling a peaceful sound if you're not startled by it. Owls call from olive trees, their hoots floating across the valleys. Sometimes a fox crosses the road, pausing to look at you with curious eyes before melting back into the shadows. The silence here is different from the coastal quiet. There's no constant whisper of waves, no distant hum of towns. This is deep silence, broken only by the wind in the pines, the distant bell of a goat, the creak of old wood cooling in the night air. It's a silence that seems to enter your bones, to calm systems you didn't know were tense. Dawn comes earlier up here, the eastern sky lightening while the coast below still sleeps. The first light turns the lavender fields from black to deep purple, to that famous Provençal violet. Mist fills the valleys like pools of milk, with hilltop villages rising above it like islands. The morning ritual here is ancient. Farmers check their fields, not hurriedly but with patient attention. Coffee is drunk standing in doorways, watching the light change. Cats stretch in patches of early sun. Everything moves slowly, deliberately, with the wisdom of ages. This is where our journey naturally pauses, here in the lavender fields above the French Riviera. You've traveled from the gentle shores of Nice, through the medieval villages, along the coastal paths, and up into these fragrant hills. You've experienced the Riviera not as a destination, but as a state of mind. A way of being that values peace over excitement, beauty over efficiency, presence over progress. The lavender fields will be here tomorrow, and the day after, and next year. They'll bloom and rest, in their eternal cycle, just as the sea below will continue its breathing, in and out, just as the sun will continue to paint the sky in impossible colors every evening. You can rest here, in this peaceful place between sea and sky, surrounded by the scent of lavender and the sound of silence. Let the journey settle into your memory like sediment in still water, forming layers of peace that you can return to whenever you need them. And now, dear traveler, as our journey along the French Riviera comes to its natural close, let yourself settle even more deeply into rest. You've wandered with me through ancient streets and hidden gardens, along coastal paths and up into lavender-scented hills. Every step has been a meditation, every view a gentle painting designed to calm your spirit. Feel yourself now in a comfortable place, perhaps on a terrace overlooking the sea. Perhaps in a garden surrounded by the scent of jasmine. Perhaps in a simple room with shutters open to the Mediterranean night. Wherever you are, you're safe, you're peaceful, you're exactly where you need to be. The French Riviera continues its quiet existence. Waves lap against ancient harbors. Cats curl in doorways. Flowers release their perfume into the night air. The moon traces its path across the sky, laying down that silver road across the water that seems to lead to dreams. Your breathing has probably slowed during our journey, matching the rhythm of the sea. In and out, in and out. This is the breathing of deep peace, of complete relaxation. Your body knows this rhythm. It's the rhythm of sleep approaching, of consciousness gently releasing its hold on the waking world. The images from our journey float through your mind, like clouds across the Mediterranean sky. The pink and ochre buildings of Nice, the medieval stones of Aix, the hidden gardens of Cap Ferrat, the lavender fields stretching purple to the horizon. Let them drift past without trying to hold them. They're part of you now, woven into your peaceful memories. Somewhere, fishermen are preparing their boats for tomorrow's early departure. But that's tomorrow. Tonight is for rest. Somewhere, bakers are beginning their night's work, kneading dough that will become tomorrow's bread. But you don't need to think about tomorrow. This moment, this peaceful now, is all that exists. The gentle sounds of the Riviera night surround you. Perhaps you hear the distant whisper of waves. Perhaps the soft chirp of crickets. Perhaps just the sound of your own peaceful breathing. All sounds blend into a lullaby, a symphony of quietness that carries you deeper into rest. Your body feels heavy and comfortable. Every muscle has released its tension. Your arms, your legs, your shoulders, your face, all completely relaxed. You're sinking into comfort like sinking into warm sand, supported and held by the peaceful earth beneath you. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. They've watched over this coast for millions of years. They've seen countless peaceful souls like you finding rest here. You're part of this timeless tradition now, part of the long history of people who came to the French Riviera seeking peace and finding it. Let any remaining thoughts drift away like boats on calm water, getting smaller and smaller until they disappear over the horizon. Your mind is like the Mediterranean on a still morning, clear, calm, reflecting only peace. The lavender scent seems to surround you now, that gentle, calming fragrance that has soothed people for centuries. Breathe it in. Let it fill you with tranquility. Every breath takes you deeper into peaceful rest. You might find yourself walking once more along the Promenade des Anglais, but in a dream now, where everything moves even more slowly, where colors are softer, where the only sound is the gentle whisper of waves saying sleep, sleep, sleep. Or perhaps you're floating in one of those perfect coves we discovered, the water holding you effortlessly, warm and safe, rocking you gently. No need to swim or move, just float, just be, just rest. The church bells have stopped ringing. The last lights in the villages are going out. Even the cats have found their sleeping places. The whole Riviera is settling into dreams, and you're settling with it, part of this great, peaceful rest. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again over the Mediterranean, painting the sky in those impossible colors. But you don't need to see it. You can rest, rest, rest. The beauty will be there whenever you're ready. The peace peace will wait for you. Your journey along the French Riviera is complete, but the peace you found remains. It's inside you now, a place you can return to whenever you need. Just close your eyes and remember the blue sea, the gentle light, the scent of flowers, the perfect peace. Sleep now, deep and peaceful sleep, carried by the rhythm of Mediterranean waves, surrounded by the scent of lavender, held in the gentle embrace of this blessed coast. Sleep and dream of blue waters and golden light, of ancient stones and patient olive trees, of cats sleeping in squares and boats rocking in harbors. Rest now, complete rest, perfect rest. The French Riviera holds you in its peaceful spell. You're safe, you're calm, you're deeply, completely at peace. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Welcome, peaceful wanderer, to another gentle journey with the sleeping wanderer. Tonight we're traveling together to Gimmelwald, a tiny Swiss village suspended halfway between earth and sky in the Bernese Alps, where time moves slowly and every breath brings a deeper calm. This car-free sanctuary, home to just over 100 souls, rests peacefully on a mountain shelf, untouched by the rush of modern life. There's no rush, no agenda, just a peaceful exploration that will carry you gently toward rest. Before we begin our restful adventure together, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy these sleepy travels. And drop a comment below telling me which magical destination you want us to visit next. Take a deep breath now and feel the pure alpine air filling your lungs, crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of hay and wildflowers. You're standing on a narrow mountain path, looking across at Gimmelwald, which appears to float on its green terrace, suspended between the valley floor far below and the snow-capped peaks high above. The only sounds reaching you are the distant melody of cowbells and the whisper of wind through pine trees. This evening we'll wander through this peaceful hamlet where cars have never disturbed the tranquility. We'll follow ancient farming paths, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. We'll rest beside traditional hay barns that have stood for centuries. We'll listen to the gentle symphony of mountain life, cowbells, distant waterfalls, the soft voices of farmers calling to their animals in Swiss German. Gimmelwald has remained unchanged for hundreds of years. No hotels crowd its narrow lanes. No shops line its single street. This is authentic Swiss alpine life, preserved like a living museum of peace. The village exists in a bubble of serenity, accessible only by cable car or steep mountain trail, keeping it forever separate from the hurried world below. The light here has a special quality, filtered through mountain mist and reflected off snow-covered peaks. It's softer than valley light, gentler, as if the altitude has refined it into something more peaceful. This evening light now bathes the wooden chalets in golden warmth, making the old timber glow like honey. You can see the village clearly now, just a handful of traditional Swiss chalets scattered across the mountainside. Their wooden walls have weathered to a rich brown gray, the color of tree bark. Their roofs are weighted down with stones, an ancient technique to keep them secure against mountain winds. Window boxes overflow with red geraniums, the traditional Swiss flower that adds splashes of color to the weathered wood. Below the village, the Lauterbrunnen Valley drops away dramatically, a deep green cleft between towering limestone cliffs. 72 waterfalls cascade down these walls, their white ribbons visible even from here, though their sound is just a gentle whisper at this distance. The valley is so deep, so narrow, that it holds on to morning mist long after the mountains have found the sun. Above Gimmelwald, the giants of the Alps stand guard. The Jungfrau, the Mönch, the Eiger. Their names alone evoke ancient power, but from here they appear peaceful, almost protective. Snow covers their upper reaches year-round, glowing pink now in the evening light. Glaciers rest in their high valleys, rivers of ice moving so slowly that their motion is measured in centuries. The cable car that brought you here was a gentle ride, rising silently through layers of landscape, through the valley's orchards and meadows, past the tree line where forest gives way to alpine pasture, until finally depositing you at this elevation where the air is thinner, but somehow easier to breathe, cleaner, purer. As you begin your walk into Gimmelwald, know that you can close your eyes whenever you feel ready. Let my voice simply guide you through this mountain paradise as you drift toward sleep. There's no need to remember every detail, no need to stay awake for any particular moment. Simply let the peaceful atmosphere of this alpine sanctuary surround you. The path beneath your feet is worn smooth, a combination of packed earth and flat stones placed centuries ago. It winds gently, never steep, always considerate of the walker. This is a path made for daily use, for farmers carrying milk pails, for children walking to the tiny schoolhouse, for elderly villagers who have walked it thousands of times. You enter Gimmelwald along its only street, if you can call it a street. It's really more of a wide path, just broad enough for a small farm vehicle, though none are allowed here. The surface is a mixture of cobblestones and packed earth, with grass growing between the stones. Your footsteps make almost no sound on this forgiving surface. The first thing you notice is the silence, but it's not empty silence. It's full of small, peaceful sounds. The ever-present cowbells create a random melody that never repeats, but never stops. Some bells are deep and resonant, others light and tinkling. Each cow wears a different tone, creating an accidental orchestra that has played here for centuries. A wooden fountain stands at the village entrance. Water flows continuously from a simple pipe into a long wooden trough, carved from a single tree trunk. The water is glacial melt, incredibly pure, incredibly cold. It makes a gentle splashing sound that mingles with the cowbells. Locals still drink from this fountain, cupping the icy water in their hands. The chalets on either side of the path are built in the traditional Bernese Oberland style. Their foundations are stone, gray, and solid, rising about head height. Above this, the structures are all wood, dark with age and weather. The wood has a beautiful texture, each beam and board telling its own story of seasons endured. Each chalet has a name carved above its door: Alpenrose, Edelweiss, Enzian, names of mountain flowers that bloom in the meadows above. Some dates are carved too: 1658, 1743, 1821. These houses have sheltered families for centuries, passing from generation to generation like precious heirlooms. The windows are small, designed to keep in warmth during long winters, but each one glows softly with lamplight, suggesting cozy interiors where families gather around tile stoves. Lace curtains, handmade by grandmothers, filter the light, creating patterns on the worn wooden floors inside. Gardens surround each house, but these aren't ornamental gardens. They're practical, productive spaces. Vegetables grow in neat rows: lettuce, cabbage, carrots, potatoes, the foods that can grow at this altitude. Berry bushes heavy with red and black currants line the fences. Apple trees, gnarled with age, still produce fruit. An elderly woman tends one of these gardens. She moves slowly, deliberately, pulling weeds with practiced efficiency. She doesn't look up as you pass, absorbed in her peaceful work. Her presence is comforting, a reminder that life here continues its ancient rhythms, regardless of the outside world. Cats appear from various corners. Swiss farm cats, sturdy and well-fed. They watch you with calm curiosity, but don't approach. They have their own business, hunting mice in the hay barns, sleeping in patches of sun, living their parallel lives alongside the human inhabitants. The smell of wood smoke drifts from chimneys. Even in summer, evening fires are lit for cooking and comfort. The smoke is sweet from well-dried wood, probably split last year and stored in the neat stacks you see beside every house. These wood piles are works of art, each piece fitted precisely, creating walls of fuel that also serve as windbreaks. A small church stands halfway through the village. It's tiny, barely larger than the houses around it. Its white walls stand out against the dark wood of the chalets. A simple wooden cross tops its modest steeple. The churchyard is just a small patch of grass with a few ancient graves, their inscriptions worn smooth by weather. Children's voices float from somewhere, speaking Swiss German, their words incomprehensible, but their tone universal. The sound of children playing peacefully. They're probably in one of the small meadows between houses, playing the same games their parents and grandparents played. The village store, if you can call it that, is just someone's converted barn. It's open only a few hours each day, selling basics: bread, milk, cheese, chocolate. The prices are written in chalk on a small board. The honor system prevails. Take what you need. Leave your francs in the wooden box. As you continue through the village, you notice how everything is scaled to human life. No building is taller than necessary. No space is wasted. Everything has a purpose, a function refined over centuries. This is architecture without architects, design by necessity and tradition. The evening sun casts long shadows now. Each house, each fence post, each apple tree creates its own dark twin stretching across the path. The shadows are soft-edged, gentle, moving slowly as the sun descends toward the peaks. The history of Gimmelwald is written not in books, but in the landscape itself, in the worn stones, the ancient paths, the traditional methods still practiced daily. This village has existed for over 500 years, maybe longer. Its origins are lost in the mists that regularly shroud these mountains. The first settlers were probably summer farmers, bringing their cattle up from the valleys to graze the high pastures. They built simple shelters, just enough to protect themselves during the short alpine summer. Gradually, some stayed year-round, learning to live with the long winters, the isolation, the challenges of mountain life. You pass an old hay barn, its construction a masterpiece of traditional engineering, built without nails, using only wooden joints and pegs. The technique is called strickbau, where logs are stacked and interlocked at the corners. These barns can be dismantled and moved if necessary, each piece numbered in a system passed down through generations. The barn's wood is silver gray with age, probably large, chosen for its resistance to weather. Inside, through gaps between the boards, you can see hay stored for winter. The smell is sweet, grassy, deeply comforting. This hay was cut by hand from the steep meadows above, using the same scythe that have been used here for centuries. The village's isolation has been both its challenge and its salvation. For centuries, Gimmelwald was accessible only by foot. A steep path zigzagged up from the valley floor, taking hours to climb. Everything needed had to be carried up: salt, tools, fabric. Everything produced had to be carried down: cheese, butter, wool. In winter, the village was often completely cut off. Snow would block the paths for months. Families survived on stored food: potatoes and cabbage in root cellars, preserved meat, cheese aged in cool caves. They lived by candlelight, telling stories through the long evenings, maintaining traditions that might have been lost in more accessible places. The church bell, which you can hear ringing softly now for evening prayer, was carried up piece by piece in 1831. It took 12 men 3 days to transport it from the valley. The bell has rung every evening since, calling the village to pause, to reflect, to mark the passage of another day. During both world wars, Gimmelwald served as a quiet refuge, too small and remote to be of strategic importance. Swiss neutrality meant the village continued its peaceful existence, while Europe convulsed around it. Farmers still made cheese, children still attended the tiny school. Life continued its ancient rhythm. The cable car arrived in 1965, connecting Gimmelwald to the valley for the first time. But the village chose to remain car-free, to preserve its character. This decision, made collectively by the villagers, has kept Gimmelwald from the fate of other alpine villages transformed by tourism. You notice the old washhouse, where women once gathered to do laundry. The stone basins are still there, worn smooth by generations of hands. Spring water still flows through them, ice cold and crystal clear. This was a social center, where news was shared, problems discussed, community maintained. The schoolhouse, barely larger than a chapel, educated all the village children in one room. Children from age 6 to 16 learned together, older ones helping younger. The last full-time teacher left in the 1980s. Now village children take the cable car down to school, but the building remains, converted to a community center. Traditional festivals still mark the calendar here. The Alpabzug in autumn, when cows return from high pastures, decorated with flowers and enormous bells. The Silvesterklausen at New Year, when costumed figures move through the village, driving away evil spirits with bells and songs. These aren't performances for tourists. They're living traditions. The village has produced its share of mountain guides, men who knew every crevice of the glaciers, every route up the great peaks. Their knowledge, passed from father to son, was encyclopedic. They could read weather and cloud formations, predict avalanches from snow crystals, find their way in whiteout conditions. Some of the older villagers still speak only Swiss German, the ancient dialect that varies from valley to valley. Their words carry echoes of medieval German, preserved in this mountain isolation, like insects in amber. When they speak, you're hearing sounds that have changed little in 500 years. The cemetery, just outside the village, tells its own stories. The same family names repeat across centuries. Vius, von Allmen, Steger, families who have been here since the beginning. The graves are simple, decorated only with seasonal flowers, facing the eternal mountains. An old woman sitting on a bench nods as you pass. She's probably lived here all her life, might never have traveled further than Interlaken. Her face is weathered like the wood of the chalets, marked by decades of mountain sun and wind. She represents a continuity that's becoming rare in our modern world. The village has adapted to modernity carefully, selectively. Electricity came late, but is now universal. Internet connects Gimmelwald to the world. But these additions are subtle, hidden. Wires run underground. Solar panels hide behind traditional roofs. The village has learned to take what it needs from the modern world while preserving what matters. The architecture of Gimmelwald speaks in whispers. Every building, every structure seems to have grown from the mountainside rather than been built upon it. The chalets nestle into the slope, working with the mountain rather than against it. You pause before a particularly old chalet, its construction a lesson in mountain wisdom. The foundation walls are massive stones, probably gathered from the mountainside after avalanches or rockfalls. These stones fit together without mortar in some places, their weight and careful placement keeping them stable for centuries. Above the stone, the wooden structure begins. The logs are full trees, their ends carved into interlocking joints. You can see the axe marks still, each stroke preserved in the hard wood. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. No two joints exactly alike, each one custom fitted, yet all working together in perfect harmony. The roof is a marvel of practical engineering. Wooden shingles, called schindeln, overlap like fish scales, each one hand-split from straight-grained pine or larch. They've weathered to a silver gray that makes the roof seem like part of the mountain itself. Large stones placed strategically hold the shingles against winter storms. The overhang of the roof extends far beyond the walls, protecting them from rain and snow. This overhang creates a sheltered space where firewood is stacked, tools are stored, and people can work even in bad weather. It's architecture that thinks ahead, that plans for every season. Windows are placed with careful consideration. Small on the north side to keep out cold, larger on the south to capture precious winter sun. The frames are thick, double-layered in older houses, creating insulating air pockets. Window boxes aren't just decorative. The flowers attract bees for nearby gardens. Their roots help insulate. Inside, glimpsed through open doors, you see low ceilings that conserve heat. Massive wooden beams, darkened by centuries of smoke, support the structure. These beams often have dates and initials carved into them, the signatures of long-dead builders proud of their work. The traditional stube, or living room, is paneled entirely in wood, pine usually, which releases a gentle resin scent when warmed. A tile stove, or kachelofen, dominates one corner. These stoves are engineering marvels. One fire in the morning heats ceramic tiles that radiate warmth all day. Hay barns punctuate the village, their design unchanged for centuries. They're built on stilts with flat stones called Mäuseplatten between the stilts and the structure. These stones prevent mice from climbing up into the stored hay. Every element has purpose, refined over generations. The barns are positioned to catch prevailing winds, which help dry the hay. Their walls have gaps between boards for ventilation, carefully calculated. Too close, and the hay molds. Too far apart, and rain gets in. This knowledge isn't written anywhere. It's passed down, absorbed, understood. Small sheds and storage buildings cluster around the main chalets. Each has its purpose. One for cheese-making equipment, another for farming tools, another for winter vegetables. They're built with the same care as houses, because in this climate, everything must last. You notice the paths between buildings. They're not random, but follow patterns established over centuries. The main path curves to avoid the worst winter winds. Secondary paths connect buildings in ways that minimize exposure during storms. This is planning by experience, urban design by daily living. A small bridge crosses a mountain stream that runs through the village. The bridge is stone, arched, probably Roman in inspiration, though much more recent. The stream provides water for gardens, power for an old mill wheel, now decorative, and a gentle soundtrack of flowing water. The village fountain is more than decorative. It's a gathering place, a water source, a cooling station for milk and cheese. The wooden trough is worn smooth, where countless hands have rested. The overflow creates a small wetland where marsh marigolds bloom. Modern additions are remarkably subtle. Solar panels designed to look like traditional roof tiles. Satellite dishes hidden behind false barn walls. Even the public telephone booth, still maintained though rarely used, is housed in a structure that matches the traditional architecture. The church deserves special attention. Its architecture is austere, Protestant, unadorned, yet it's perfectly proportioned, its simple lines creating a sense of peace. The bell tower is integrated into the main structure, not separate, symbolizing the integration of faith into daily life. Inside the church, you can see through the always open door. Wooden pews worn smooth by generations face a simple altar. The ceiling is painted with stars, a common alpine tradition, reminding worshippers of heaven. The acoustics are perfect, designed for unaccompanied singing that fills the space without echoing. Even the newest buildings in Gimmelwald follow traditional patterns. Swiss building codes here are strict, preserving the architectural harmony. New chalets must use traditional materials, traditional proportions, traditional techniques where possible. The result is a village that feels timeless. The architecture creates microclimates, walls that trap sun and radiate heat, corners that shelter from wind, spaces between buildings that channel cooling breezes in summer. This is architecture as lived experience, refined by centuries of daily use. The daily rhythm of life in Gimmelwald follows patterns as old as the village itself. As evening deepens, you witness traditions that have survived because they work, because they bring meaning and structure to mountain life. A farmer passes, leading 2 brown Swiss cows back to their barn for evening milking. The cows know the way, their bells clanging peacefully as they walk. The farmer doesn't hurry them. This twice daily ritual of bringing cows in for milking has happened here for centuries. The milking itself is still done by hand in some barns. You can hear the rhythmic sound, the splash of milk into metal pails. It's meditative work, the farmer leaning against the warm flank of the cow, both creatures peaceful in their ancient partnership. Cheese-making continues here, though on a small scale. In a wooden shed, a farmer tends a copper kettle over a wood fire. He's making Alpkäse, the traditional mountain cheese. The process can't be rushed. The milk must be heated just so, the rennet added at precisely the right moment. The cheese will age in a cool cellar carved into the mountainside. Wheels of cheese from different years line wooden shelves. Each wheel is turned daily, washed with salt water weekly. The oldest cheeses are 3 years old, their flavor concentrated, complex. Speaking of the herbs, the cows ate in high meadows, In another house, a woman cards wool from sheep that graze the steep slopes. The rhythm of carding is hypnotic, pulling the wool through metal combs, aligning the fibers. Later, she'll spin this into yarn on a wheel her grandmother used. The wool will become socks, sweaters, blankets, items both practical and beautiful. Children help with evening chores, feeding chickens, gathering eggs, bringing in firewood. They learn by doing, absorbing the rhythm of farm life. There's no hurry in their movements. They've learned the mountain pace, steady, deliberate, sustainable. The evening meal is being prepared in various kitchens. Simple food, locally sourced. Potatoes from the garden. Cheese from the cellar. Bread from the weekly baking. You smell rusty cooking. Grated potatoes fried golden. The Swiss national dish that originated in these mountains. One family maintains a smokehouse where meat is preserved. The smoke comes from juniper and pine, giving the meat a distinctive flavor. Sausages hang from rafters, slowly drying. This preserved meat will last through winter, providing protein when fresh meat is unavailable. An elderly man tends his beehives at the village edge. The bees are calm in the evening cool. He moves slowly, deliberately, his movements practiced over decades. The honey from these hives tastes of alpine wildflowers, clover, thyme, countless unnamed blooms. The village has its own unwritten schedule. Monday is washing day, Tuesday for baking bread, Wednesday for cheese making. This coordination means resources like the communal bread oven are shared efficiently. It also creates social structure, reasons for neighbors to meet and help each other. The communal bread oven, built of stone and clay, is fired up weekly. Families bring their risen dough, each loaf marked with a distinctive pattern. The oven holds heat for hours, baking multiple batches. The smell of baking bread drifts through the village, announcing the day to everyone. Traditional crafts survive here. An old man makes wooden milk buckets, bending thin strips of wood into perfect circles. A woman knits the intricate patterns passed down through her family. Each pattern tells a story, identifies a family, carries meaning beyond mere decoration. The Swiss tradition of direct democracy lives in Gimmelwald. Village meetings where every adult has a voice, where decisions are made by consensus when possible. They discuss everything from path maintenance to festival planning. Democracy at its most basic, most direct level. Music is part of daily life. Someone practices an accordion in the evening, the sound drifting through open windows. Others might join with an alphorn, its deep voice echoing off mountain walls. This isn't performance. It's expression, communication, joy in sound. Storytelling continues through generations. Elderly villagers remember tales their grandparents told, stories of harsh winters survived, of avalanches avoided, of love found and lost. These stories teach history, values, survival skills, all wrapped in narrative. The tradition of helping neighbors is strong. When someone's roof needs repair, others appear to help. When hay must be cut, extra hands arrive. This isn't charity. It's investment in community resilience. Today I help you. Tomorrow you help me. Even modern technology is adapted to traditional patterns. The village WhatsApp group shares the same information once shared over garden fences. Who needs help with hay? Who has extra eggs? When the next village meeting is. New tools, ancient purposes. The church bells mark time for the village. Different patterns for different occasions. Quick ringing for fire, slow tolling for death. joyful pealing for marriages. Everyone knows the code, responds accordingly. The bells are the village voice. Traditional medicine persists alongside modern healthcare. Elderly women know which herbs help digestion, which reduce fever. They make tinctures from plants gathered at specific times, dried in specific ways. This knowledge is precious, irreplaceable, passed carefully to those who show interest. Seasonal celebrations maintain their importance. Not just the big festivals, but small observances. The first day, cows go to the high pasture. The last day of harvest. The lighting of the first winter fire. Each transition marked, acknowledged, celebrated in small ways. The light is changing now as evening progresses into night. The peaks above Gimmelwald catch the last rays of sun, glowing pink and orange in the phenomenon known as alpenglow. This light seems to come from within the mountains themselves, as if they're radiating their stored warmth. The village settles into its evening rhythm. Cowbells become less frequent as animals bed down for the night. The sound of footsteps on the main path diminishes. Voices become softer, conversations more intimate. The village is preparing for sleep, just as you are. The temperature drops noticeably as the sun disappears. Mountain evenings are cool even in summer. You can feel the stored heat of the day radiating from stone walls, creating warm pockets of air. Cats know these spots, curl up in them, adding their peaceful presence to the evening. Mist begins to form in the valley below, rising from the waterfalls and streams, gathering in the depths. From Gimmelwald's height, you look down on a sea of cloud, the valley completely hidden. The village feels even more isolated, more peaceful, floating above the clouds like an island in the sky. The stars appear one by one, then suddenly all at once. At this altitude, with no light pollution, the night sky is spectacular. The Milky Way stretches across like a river of light. Constellations you've never noticed before reveal themselves. The universe feels both vast and intimate. Night sounds replace day sounds. An owl calls from the forest edge. Its voice is deep, resonant, not frightening but comforting. Small creatures rustle in the gardens. Mice, hedgehogs, going about their nocturnal business. A fox barks in the distance, answered by another. Inside the chalets, oil lamps and candles create warm pools of light. Electric lights exist, but are used sparingly. The old forms of lighting are preferred for evening, softer, warmer, more conducive to winding down. Shadows dance on wooden walls, creating a living artwork. The smell of wood smoke becomes stronger as more stoves are lit. Each house has its own scent signature. Pine from one, applewood from another. The complex smell of mixed hardwoods. These scents layer and blend, creating the unique perfume of a mountain village at night. You find a bench positioned perfectly for viewing the night landscape. The wood is smooth, worn by countless sitters before you. From here, you can see the lights of other villages far below, tiny pinpricks in the darkness. Each light represents a life, a family, a story. The weather in mountains can change rapidly, but tonight is stable, clear, calm, perfect for rest. Sometimes clouds roll through the village, enveloping everything in soft gray. Other times, storms light up the peaks with lightning, while Gimmelwald remains peaceful. Tonight offers simple, quiet clarity. The seasonal changes here are dramatic, but gentle. Spring comes late, announced by avalanches rumbling on distant peaks. Summer is brief but intense. wildflowers carpeting every available space. Autumn turns the larches gold before the first snow. Winter locks the village in pristine white silence. Each season brings its own rhythm. Spring's urgency to plant and repair. Summer's steady work of growing and harvesting. Autumn's preparation and preservation. Winter's enforced rest and reflection. The village has adapted to these rhythms over centuries. Morning will come early here. First light touches the peaks while the village still sleeps. The progression of light down the mountainsides is like watching the world wake up. Birds begin singing before you can see them. The first cowbell rings as a farmer begins morning milking, but that's tomorrow. Now, in this peaceful evening, time seems suspended. The village exists in a bubble of tranquility. No traffic, no sirens, no urban noise. Just the ancient sounds of rural life winding down, preparing for rest. The glacier on the Jungfrau glows faintly in moonlight. This river of ice has been here for millennia, moving imperceptibly slowly. Its presence is both powerful and peaceful, a reminder of geological time, of processes far beyond human scale. Sometimes the northern lights are visible from here, rare but magical when they appear. Green curtains dancing across the northern sky. The villagers have their own names for them, their own stories about what they mean. Another layer of mystery in this already mystical place. The wind picks up slightly, rustling through the meadow grass. It brings the scent of snow from high peaks, even in summer. This wind has traveled far, over glaciers and through valleys, to reach this peaceful village. It carries stories from the heights. A dog barks once, then settles. Not an alarm bark, just a comment on something noticed. Perhaps a deer at the village edge, or a marmot venturing out. The bark is answered by another dog, then silence returns. Even the dogs here understand the value of quiet. The church clock chimes the hour, 9 o'clock. The bronze voice echoes off mountain walls, multiplying, fading, finally absorbed by the vast silence. Time is marked but not insisted upon. The clock serves the village, not the other way around. Beyond the main path through Gimmelwald lie secret places known only to locals and patient explorers. Small meadows between chalets where wildflowers grow undisturbed. Hidden benches positioned for perfect views. Quiet corners where the village's peace concentrates. You discover a tiny garden tucked behind an old hay barn. Someone has created a paradise here. Vegetables grow in raised beds made from weathered planks. Herbs spiral in a pattern that maximizes space and sun. Flowers mix with food plants, beauty and utility intertwined. A small greenhouse made from old windows leans against a south-facing wall. Inside, tomatoes climb strings toward the glass roof. The air is warm, humid, scented with the tomato leaves. This microclimate allows growing things that wouldn't survive outside at this altitude. Following a narrow path between houses, you find the old wash station. Stone basins fed by mountain spring water. Women once gathered here for laundry and gossip. Now it's quiet, just the constant trickle of water. Moss grows on the stones, soft and green. Behind the church, a small cemetery holds the village's departed. The graves are simple, most marked only with wooden crosses. Families tend them carefully, planting flowers that bloom in succession. It's peaceful here, not sad. Death treated as naturally as life. A bench has been placed at the perfect spot for watching sunrise, worn smooth by generations of early risers. From here, you can see the first light touch the Jungfrau, then slowly descend into the valley. Someone has carved initials and a date, 1897. Young love, now long past. The old schoolhouse playground remains, though children rarely play here now. Swings hang motionless. A slide rusts slowly. Nature is reclaiming this space. Wildflowers grow through cracks. Birds nest in the shelter. It's becoming a different kind of peaceful place. You find a root cellar built into the hillside. The door is thick, insulated. Inside, if you were to enter, shelves hold preserved foods. Potatoes in bins, apples wrapped in paper, jars of pickled vegetables. The temperature is constant, cool, perfect for storage through long winters. A small shrine stands at the village entrance. Catholic tradition in a Protestant village, showing Switzerland's religious tolerance. Fresh flowers indicate someone tends it. A candle flickers behind the glass. Mary watches over travelers with painted eyes that seem kind. The path to the high pastures begins just beyond the last house. It switchbacks up the mountainside, gaining altitude gradually. This is where village cows spend summer, where cheese is made in alpine huts. The path is worn deep, used for centuries. Hidden in the forest edge is a woodcutter's shelter, just big enough for one person to rest. A bench, a roof, walls on 3 sides. Generations of woodcutters have rested here, eaten lunch, sheltered from sudden storms. The walls are carved with names, dates, observations about weather. A spring emerges from the mountainside, creating a small pool. The water is incredibly clear, incredibly cold. Local legend says it has healing properties. Whether true or not, the place feels special. Ferns grow around the edges. The sound of water is constant, soothing. Someone has built a small meditation platform overlooking the valley. Just planks on a frame, but positioned perfectly. From here, the view is infinite. Mountains, valleys, sky. It's a place for contemplation, for putting life in perspective. The village has its wild edges where human influence fades, where gardens become meadows, meadows become forest. These transition zones are rich with life. Butterflies, bees, birds, all finding what they need in this margin between wild and tamed. An old apple orchard survives above the village. The trees are ancient, gnarled, still producing fruit. No one remembers who planted them. They're common heritage now. In autumn, anyone can gather windfall apples. The deer know this too. Come at dawn and dusk. Rock outcroppings create natural shelters, places where shepherds once waited out storms. The rock is worn smooth where people sat. Sometimes you find names carved, dates, messages from the past. Johann was here, 1743. Simple human marking of presence. A small pond, perhaps natural, perhaps enhanced by human hands, reflects the sky. Dragonflies patrol its edges. Frogs sing in evening. It's a complete ecosystem in miniature. A place where village children catch tadpoles, where adults sit and think. The forest above Gimmelwald holds its own secrets. Mushroom patches known only to a few. Berry spots passed down through families. Places where rare orchids bloom. This knowledge is precious, shared carefully, protected. Even the spaces between buildings have character. Narrow alleys where snow never melts completely. Corners where wind eddies create perfect spots for wind chimes. Places where cats congregate for reasons known only to them. These hidden spaces make Gimmelwald more than just a village. They make it a living landscape, full of discovery even for lifetime residents. Every walk reveals something new or something old seen newly. The village keeps its secrets, but shares them with those who look gently, patiently. Every village has its stories, and Gimmelwald's tales are as gentle as mist rising from the valley. They're not stories of drama or conflict, but quiet narratives of lives lived in harmony with the mountains. There's the story of the shepherd who got lost in fog on the high pastures. He followed the sound of his lead cow's bell through the white blindness. The cow, knowing the way better than any map, led him safely home. Since then, that family always puts the largest bell on their wisest cow. The village tells of the winter of 1956, when snow fell for 40 straight days. The village was completely cut off. Food ran low, but no one went hungry. Everyone shared what they had. Neighbors became family. When spring finally came, the bonds formed that winter never broke. An old woman remembers her grandmother's story about the last bear in these mountains. It wasn't hunted, wasn't killed. It simply wandered away one autumn, following ancient paths to quieter places. Sometimes, on misty mornings, people claim they still hear it, though it's probably just wind in the rocks. There's the legend of the white chamois, a magical creature, pure white, seen only at dawn or dusk. Those who see it are blessed with good fortune. Whether real albino or myth, the story adds magic to every wildlife sighting. Every chamois glimpsed might be the one. The church bell has its own story. During a terrible storm, it rang by itself, warning the village of an impending avalanche. People evacuated their homes just before the snow crashed through. The bell saved lives. Now, when it rings unexpectedly, people still pause and listen. A love story echoes through generations. A village girl and a boy from the valley below. Their families disapproved. They would meet secretly at a rock between villages. Eventually, love won. Their descendants still live in Gimmelwald. The rock is still called Lover's Stone. The village fool remembered with affection, not mockery, simple-minded but kind. He knew every cow by name, could predict weather better than any forecast. When he died, the whole village mourned. His wisdom was different but real. His grave is always decorated with fresh flowers. There's the story of the lost children. 2 siblings wandered off picking berries. Night fell, panic rose. The whole village searched. They were found safe in a hay barn, asleep. They said an old woman led them there, but no one matching their description lived in Gimmelwald. The village has a ghost, but a friendly one. The miller who ran the old water mill. People still hear the wheel turning on quiet nights, though it hasn't moved in decades. He's not frightening, just continuing his work in whatever realm he now inhabits. A treasure story, because every village needs one. Gold hidden during the Napoleonic Wars, never found despite generations of searching. The story keeps children exploring, keeps imagination alive. The real treasure, of course, is the searching itself, the excuse to explore, the miracle of the roses. During a particularly harsh winter, roses bloomed in January on one cottage. The family took it as a sign of hope. Spring came early that year. Now that cottage always plants roses, maintaining the miracle through careful tending. There's the tale of the traveling musician who paid for lodging with songs. His music was so beautiful that birds stopped singing to listen. He promised to return, but never did. Some say you can still hear his melody on wind. Others say he was an angel, testing the village's hospitality. The story of the great storm when lightning struck the church. The building should have burned, but rain came instantly, dousing flames. The strike left a mark on one beam, still visible, still reminding villagers of providence, protection, the thin line between disaster and salvation. A modern legend is forming. The Japanese artist, who came for a week, stayed for 30 years. He paints the same view every day, finding infinite variation. His paintings sell worldwide, but he stays in Gimmelwald. He says he's still learning to see the mountains. The village remembers the teacher who taught 3 generations. She knew every child's strengths, every family's struggles. Her lessons went beyond books. She taught resilience, community, the value of this mountain life. Former students still return to visit her grave. There's the story of the cow who refused to leave the high pasture. Winter approaching, snow threatening, but she wouldn't budge. The farmer found her standing guard over an injured chamois. She had been protecting it from predators. Both animals were brought down safely. The village doctor, who served for 50 years without missing a day. He delivered babies, set bones, eased final breaths. Payment was often in cheese or firewood. He knew everyone's medical history by heart. His knowledge died with him, irreplaceable. These stories weave through village life like morning mist. Some true, some enhanced, some pure imagination, but all serve purposes. They teach values, preserve history, create identity. They make Gimmelwald more than buildings and people. They make it a living story. As our journey through Gimmelwald gently winds toward its close, the village itself is settling into deep nighttime peace. The last lights in windows are dimming. The final footsteps on the main path fade away. Even the ever-present cowbells have stilled as the animals sleep. You find yourself in the heart of the village, perhaps on that same bench where we began. But everything feels different now. Deeper, quieter, more peaceful. The village has shared its secrets with you, and now it invites you to rest, to become part of its nighttime stillness. The air is cooled to the perfect sleeping temperature, cool enough to want a blanket, warm enough to be comfortable. Mountain air has this quality. It seems to encourage sleep, to make rest not just possible, but inevitable. Every breath brings more calm, more readiness for sleep. The stars above Gimmelwald shine with unusual brightness. At this altitude, with no light pollution, they seem close enough to touch. The constellation of Orion stands guard over the village. The Big Dipper pours darkness and peace over the mountains. Venus, the evening star, sets behind the peaks. Inside the chalets, families are preparing for bed. Children are being tucked in. Prayers are being said. The same bedtime rituals that have happened here for centuries. Oil lamps are being extinguished one by one. Darkness isn't feared here. It's welcomed as the bringer of rest. The sounds of night have become a lullaby. The distant rush of waterfalls in the valley below. The occasional creak of old wood adjusting to temperature changes. The soft breathing of wind through mountain passes. All these sounds blend into a symphony of sleep. You might hear a cat padding softly past on its nocturnal hunt, or an owl's wings nearly silent as it glides between trees. These night creatures move with such peace, such purpose. They don't disturb the silence. They're part of it. The mountains themselves seem to sleep. The Jungfrau, the Mönch, the Eiger. These These giants that seemed so imposing in daylight now feel protective like sleeping guardians. Their presence is comforting. They've stood here for millions of years. They'll stand for millions more. Your worries are temporary. These mountains are eternal. The village fountain continues its quiet splashing, water that fell as snow on high peaks. Last winter now flows through the village, continuing its journey to the sea. This water has been flowing for centuries. Its sound is the heartbeat of Gimmelwald, constant, reassuring. If you were to walk now through the village, your footsteps would be the only sound. But there's no need to walk, no need to move. You can rest here in this perfect spot, surrounded by the peace of centuries. The village holds you in its quiet embrace. The hay barns stand like gentle sentinels. Their stored hay represents security, survival, the promise that life will continue. The sweet scent of dried grass drifts on the night air. It's the scent of summer preserved, of sunshine captured, of peace made tangible. Perhaps a gentle mist is forming, rising from the valley, wrapping the village in soft gray silk. This mist muffles what little sound remains, creates an even deeper quiet. Gimmelwald becomes an island floating in clouds, separate from all worldly concerns. The church clock has stopped chiming. Time becomes irrelevant. There's only now this moment of perfect peace. The past is settled. The future can wait. This moment of rest is all that matters. Your breathing has probably matched the rhythm of the village. Slow, deep, peaceful. This is the breathing of deep sleep approaching. Your body knows this rhythm. It's the rhythm of restoration, of healing, of perfect rest. The wooden chalets around you have sheltered sleeping souls for centuries. In these same buildings, generations have found rest after hard days of mountain work. You're part of this tradition now. Another peaceful soul finding rest in Gimmelwald's embrace. The stories we've shared settle into your memory like sediment in still water. They don't need to be remembered precisely. They're part of you now, woven into your consciousness. The shepherd and his wise cow, the roses that bloomed in winter, the bell that rang its warning, all becoming part of your dream landscape. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again over these peaks. The cowbells will resume their random melody. Farmers will milk their cows. Children will walk to school. Life will continue its ancient rhythm. But that's tomorrow. Now is for rest. The peace of Gimmelwald is inside you now. You can return here whenever you need to. Just close your eyes and remember the sound of cowbells, the scent of hay, the sight of eternal mountains, the feeling of complete peace. Let the village hold you as you drift toward sleep. You're safe here, protected by mountains, surrounded by centuries of peace, cradled in the quiet of this alpine night. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just rest. And now, dear traveler, as our gentle journey through Gimmelwald comes to its natural close, let yourself sink even deeper into rest. You've wandered the ancient paths, breathed the mountain air, heard the stories whispered by centuries of alpine life. Every moment has been preparing you for this complete, perfect rest. Feel yourself settling into comfort. Perhaps you're resting in one of those cozy chalets, tucked under a thick duvet filled with local wool. Or maybe you're in a peaceful hay barn, surrounded by the sweet scent of summer grass. Or simply on that perfect bench, wrapped in the soft darkness of a Swiss mountain night. Wherever you are, you're completely safe, completely at peace. The village of Gimmelwald continues its quiet existence around you. Somewhere, a cat curls tighter in its sleep. A cow shifts in its stall, bell tinkling once, softly. An old house settles with a gentle creak. These sounds aren't disturbances. They're the lullaby of living peace. Your journey through this mountain sanctuary has been like walking through a dream. The narrow paths between ancient chalets, the fountains flowing with glacial water, the hay barns standing patient in the starlight. Let these images float through your mind now, each one a stepping stone toward deeper rest. The mountains watch over your rest. The Jungfrau, ancient and maternal. The Mönch, steady and protective. The Eiger, strong and eternal. They've watched over countless peaceful nights. They watch over you now. You're held in their timeless embrace. Breathe in the peace of Gimmelwald, the clean mountain air, the faint scent of wood smoke, the sweetness of hay, the freshness of snow on high peaks. Each breath takes you deeper into tranquility. Each exhale releases any remaining tension. The cowbells have all stilled now. Their music will return with dawn. But now, they rest. The village rests. The mountains rest. And you rest with them, part of this great, peaceful stillness that settles over the Alps each night. Somewhere, far below in the valley, the world continues its hurried pace. But up here, in Gimmelwald, time moves differently, slowly, gently, at the pace of growing things, of changing seasons, of geological time. You're part of this slower rhythm now. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. They've watched this village for all its centuries, watched children grow into adults, adults into elders, watched houses built and rebuilt, watched the eternal cycle of planting and harvest. Now they watch over your rest. Let any thoughts drift away like mist into the valley. There's nothing to figure out, nothing to remember, nothing to plan. Just this moment of perfect peace in a village that has perfected the art of peaceful living. The wooden walls of centuries-old chalets have absorbed so much peace, so many quiet evenings, so many restful nights. This peace radiates back now, surrounding you, filling you, becoming part of you. You might dream of walking these paths again. In your dreams, the paths might lead to new places, hidden meadows where edelweiss grows, secret viewpoints where the entire Alps spread before you, peaceful corners where time stops completely. These dream paths are yours to explore, or perhaps you'll dream of floating above Gimmelwald like the mist, seeing the village from above, peaceful and complete. The neat gardens, the patient hay barns, the sleeping houses, all perfect in their simplicity. The church bell will not ring again until morning. Hours and hours of uninterrupted peace stretch ahead. No schedule to keep, no alarm to answer. Just rest deep in restoration. Feel how heavy and comfortable your body has become. Every muscle relaxed, every joint at ease. You're sinking into comfort like sinking into a feather bed. Supported, held, completely at rest. The stories of Gimmelwald weave through your dreams. The shepherd following his wise cow through fog. Children found safe in the hay barn. Roses blooming in winter snow. These aren't just stories now. They're part of your sleep mythology. The waterfall in the valley continues their distant song. Water that has been falling for millennia. Their sound is white noise perfected by nature. washing away thoughts, smoothing the edges of consciousness, leading you deeper into sleep. Morning will come to Gimmelwald, as it always does, gently, first touching the peaks with rose gold light, then slowly descending into the village. But that's many hours away. So many hours of perfect rest ahead. The tradition of peace in this place is ancient. You're part of it now. Another soul who found rest in these Alps. Your peace adds to the accumulated peace of centuries, making Gimmelwald even more tranquil. Let the altitude help you rest. The thin air that makes everything slower, dreamier. The natural tiredness that comes with mountain elevation. Your body knows how to rest here. It's natural, inevitable. The village holds you like a mother holds a sleeping child. Protective, loving, absolutely secure. Nothing can disturb your rest. You're in a bubble of alpine peace, separate from all worldly concerns. Sleep now. Deep, restful sleep. The kind of sleep that restores not just body but soul. The kind of sleep that comes from being in a place of perfect peace. The kind of sleep Gimmelwald has been offering weary travelers for centuries. Rest, complete rest, perfect rest. The mountains stand guard. The village breathes quietly around you. The stars shine their ancient light, and you sleep deeply, peacefully, completely. Dream of cowbells and mountain meadows, of ancient paths and patient stones, of hay barns and church bells, of peace so deep it has no bottom. Dream of Gimmelwald, where time stops and rest is perfect. Sleep, sleep, sleep.